Hi, it's Misha Books and Caps, and for today's video, I'm going to talk about my 2018 reading goals. Where to start? Okay, for starters, I'm a Goodreads addict. I participate in a couple of groups on there, not frequently, but I do participate in some of the reading challenges. Last year, I had went into the new year taking up 2 reading challenges. By the end of that year, I was so far behind, and before the year ended, I ended up dropping out of both challenges. And the same thing has repeated itself this year. I went into this year doing 2 reading challenges and ended up dropping out of them midway in the year. So I'm thinking that for 2018, I'm going to refrain from doing any type of reading challenges, hoping that solves it. But then I realized that I don't typically read a lot of books in the year. There was one year where I made it to around 50 books, so I'm assuming that that's my average, around 50 books a year that I read. Last year, my goal was to read 92 books. By the time December had hit, I was so far behind. I was just trying to read anything to catch up, and history is repeating itself this year. So far, I'm like around 30 books that I still need to read this year, and I'm not a quitter. So let's just say that I'm going to be picking up everything I can get my hands on to read so I can finish my goal this year, which is to read 72 books. So for next year, I'm setting my goal to read around 29 books, and I'm not going to participate in any reading challenges. That was my original goal, and then I realized that if I'm setting my reading challenge so low as 29 books, then I can still participate in reading challenges, because then I know for sure I'm going to complete a reading challenge as well as my reading goal, because I'm sure that I'll end up reading over 29 books. Also, with reading 29 books for next year, it also gives me time to catch up on my writing. I write short stories that I post on my blog, michabooksandcaps.blogspot.com, and for the past, since this year and even a little bit of last year, I hardly posted up any short stories. I've been writing, but not a whole lot, and I want to focus more on that and upload more short stories onto my blog so I can still stick with reading books and not pressuring myself to read so many books, and also to focus on any of my writing. And if any of you interested in going to my blog page to read some of my work, please go right ahead and do that. Typically my short stories are from a male perspective. I swear I have like a little guy living within me, and I like to express that side of me in my writing. So I typically write from a male's perspective, mostly like probably like 98% of the time. You probably won't find, you probably find one short story, no, 2 or so on my blog that is probably from a girl's perspective. To dive into some of my writings that you will see on my blog page, like I said, I write from a male's perspective, but most of my stories, if not all of them, are male on male romance. Short little story. When I was in middle school, I was just writing whatever, probably mostly from my or a girl's perspective, my short stories. But by the time I hit high school, like I remember exactly, I hit 9th grade, and all of a sudden I was obsessed with anything gay, like mostly in my writing. So most of my short stories are about male on male romance. So if any of that interests any of you, like I said, please go right ahead and read my short stories. I'm currently writing a short story. Right now, I don't know what the title of it is yet. Usually about this time I would have came up with a title for it, but I've been writing it for so long, and I've had writer's block, and just haven't pushed myself to get around to continue writing it. And I'm hoping that next year, with me not reading so many books and stressing myself out, like, I realize goals such as 92 books and 72 books is probably a little out my league and outrageous for me, because I'm just not making the goal. So I'm hoping that I can definitely get around to finishing that story and uploading it onto my blog sometime next year. I already have it set up for how I want my new year to start. For like the first few months, I want to read books that are on my current reading list. I've gone into year after year after year with books just sitting on my current reading list. I can't remember the time where I've had like 0 books on there. Right now on my current reading list is probably around like 7 or 8 books. I want to go into the year and complete those and read those. Some of the books I want to hit is It by Stephen King and Clash of Kings, I think it's called. It's the second book in the Game of Thrones series. I've been reading both of those for the past couple years. Like, it goes back to like 2013, 2014, and Clash of Kings probably around like 2015. So those are my first books I want to hit, and then from there I just want to knock them all down so that by the time spring comes, I would have read all the books. And then once around springtime comes, I'm actually planning on doing a video. It's gonna be called my spring TBR or so. And for the season of spring, I just want to read all of my book of the month books that I picked out, and I'm so looking forward to that. But to get to read those books, I want to clear off my current reading list first. I originally thought that my issue was reading challenges. That, oh, why am I not finishing all of these books I set out to read each year? Is it because I'm participating in reading challenges? And yes, reading challenges, I feel like, kind of hinder you because you have to pick certain and specific books to accomplish a challenge. So I thought that was the reason. But then I realized that no, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just I need to read less books in the year as well, because I am a slow reader. I don't read as often as I would like to. And even when I do read, I have a tendency to multitask. I can't just sit still for long periods of time reading books. I have to either shuffle between books or do something else or do something while I'm reading. It's like an attention deficit that I have when it comes to reading. So I figure I'll just read less books. And then I realized with reading less books, that means I could probably still do reading challenges. Like, honestly, right now, this month I signed up for a reading challenge. Wasn't supposed to be doing that, but I figure it's a reading challenge I'll probably get around to sometime next year. It sounds fun and easy, so I'm not too worried about it hurting my reading now or my plans on what I plan on reading for next year. And so that is it for this video. So I guess I should probably be reading right now.